Dear audience, my name is Christina Werumbang. I'm the director of Confucius Institute Frankfurt, and I welcome all of you to our talk between the famous Chinese science fiction author CHEN Qiufan and his German translator Marc Hermann. We are very happy to have this opportunity today to be part of the Bookfest of Digital Book Fair 2020 in Frankfurt. We will start with a short introduction to Chinese science fiction by CHEN Qiufan, followed by Marc Hermann's perspective on the reception of Chinese science fiction in Germany. Both will then discuss further about Chinese science fiction. Marc Hermann is also going to read a little excerpt of his translation of Waste Tide into German. In German, it's Die Siliziuminsel, which has been published in 2019. Presenting now, CHEN Qiufan and Marc Hermann.
Thank you very much and for this introduction. CHEN Qiufan, I'm very happy to meet you today. Actually, this is the first time we are seeing each other. I'm honored. And so could you give us a brief introduction to Chinese science fiction nowadays first?
Thanks, Mark. Thank you for having me. I'm great pleasure to be in the Frankfurt Book Fair Digital 2020. So actually, I visited Frankfurt like 2 years ago together with a famous science fiction writer from China, the author of The Three-Body Problem, Liu Cixin. So it was quite a phenomenal event back then. So right now, I think Chinese science fiction become a big hit internationally, which is very recently appeared in 20 years. So because back in the history, science fiction actually is a genre from the West. It was introduced to China only 100 years ago. So the development of Chinese science fiction is actually empirical from time to time, back in the 50s, in 20th century, and also later on after the 80s, when the opening and reform of Chinese society. So it became the second wave of Chinese science fiction. So right now we're in the third wave of the uprising of Chinese science fiction, begin after the millennium. So we are pretty much in this new hype of the golden age of Chinese science fiction after Mr. Liu Cixin's Three-Body Problem won the Hugo Awards, and also the phenomenal movie The Wandering Earth last year. So the whole genre become a huge success across all levels, from the state level and from the industrial level, and also on the market level. So right now we have more and more young writers uprising, and also we have more books coming out, and all these publishers, movie producers, they try to adapt from science fiction stories into a blockbuster.
Yeah, thank you. You just said that Chinese science fiction is booming all over the world. And we also experience this phenomenon in Germany. Of course, starting with Liu Cixin, with the Three Bodies trilogy, which you mentioned too, but also some other writers like Hao Jingfang or you yourself. The several novels and several anthologies of short stories. And I was wondering why Chinese science fiction is so successful all over the world, and also in particular in Germany. And I think the first reason might be that science fiction is global literature. For example, Liu Cixin stresses this point a lot. So it is a literature which really addresses the whole mankind with its problems. And there's a second reason. Science fiction often reflects problems of contemporary society, although disguised in a future, but it has to do a lot with contemporary society. For example, also your book Waist Tight, or Hao Jingfang, Beijing Zhedie, Folding Beijing, books like that. So these are very socio-critical books, and the Western audience is always very interested in socio-critical Chinese books reflecting contemporary society in a critical way. And there's also an advantage, so that would be a third reason, an advantage on the side of the writers themselves, because when Chinese writers write science fiction, I think they enjoy bigger free spaces to express criticism. So this is one reason why it is such an interesting literature also for us here in the West. And so I would like to ask you, where do you view yourself within current Chinese science fiction?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, so right now is so-called the golden age of Chinese science fiction, because we have all this attention and resources from the states, from the commercial market, from the audience. But I have to say we're still at a very early stage, because our authors group, the size is quite limited, only like a few hundreds of people there, and the publication scale is pretty small compared to America or to European market. So, and not diverse, the topic we cover, the style, the subgenres, so it's still quite narrow. So we're still imitating the golden age style back in the 2050s, 50s, like Asimov, Clark, Heinlein style. So even the reader themselves think it's like canon of science fiction as a hardcore, but other things more literacy, so they will consider it more mainstream or artsy science fiction, so not that hardcore. So their preference is quite limited. So I'll say that we need to broaden our mindset. So science fiction could be very diverse, could be quite open-minded, and could be inclusive, because I think that's the essential to create the sense of wonder with the aesthetics of science fiction. That's how we try to bring to the readers. So I think for now, because the acceleration of Chinese society, and together with the economic growth and also the technology development, so everyone, we feel that technology is deeply embedded into our daily life. For example, we have facial recognition, we have like big data, we have artificial intelligence, like every day we have encountered all these kind of scenarios. So that actually provides science fiction a very good circumstance that to help people to understand what's their situation in between humanity and technology, and how they can facing this kind of like ethnical issues. And maybe in the future there's more challenges there. For example, will AI replace a lot of like human employees? So that's a huge question mark there. So I think from the perspective of science fiction, we try to examine all these kind of different futures with our storytellings. so help people to relieve their anxiety.
So if you don't mind, I would like to read an excerpt from my translation of your novel, Waist Tight. That's the book. Unzählige Werkstätten, jede kaum mehr als eine Hütte, säumten dicht an dicht wie Mayongsteine die Straßen. Dazwischen waren nur schmale Wege freigelassen, damit die Müllwagen ihre Ladung abliefern konnten. Überall lagen Metallgehäuse, kaputte Displays, Leiterplatten, Plastikteile und Drähte verstreut wie Kothaufen. Und dazwischen schwirrten die auswärtigen Arbeiter umher wie Fliegen, durchstöberten den Schrott und warfen alle Teile von Wert in Öfen oder Säurebecken, um sie zu zersetzen und Kupfer und Zinn oder kostbare, seltene Metalle wie Gold oder Platin zu gewinnen. Was übrig blieb, verbrannten sie oder sie ließen es achtlos liegen und produzierten so noch mehr Müll. Niemand trug irgendwelche Schutzkleidung. Alles war in einen bleiernen Dunst gehüllt. Der weiße Dampf, der von dem erhitzten Königswasser in den Säurebädern aufstieg, vermischte sich mit der schwarzen Asche von dem PVC, dem Isolierdraht und den Leiterplatten, die ohne Unterlass auf den Feldern und an den Ufern des Flusses brannten. Die Brise, die vom Meer herkam, vermischte die beiden Kontrastfarben zu einem einheitlichen Grau und wehte sie unterschiedslos in die Poren eines jeden Lebewesens. Scott sah die Menschen, die im Müll lebten. Die Einheimischen nannten sie Müllmenschen. Die Frauen wuschen ihre Wäsche mit bloßen Händen im schwarzen Wasser. Der Teppich aus Entengrütze, der darauf schwamm, war von silbernen Seifenblasen gesäumt. Überall spielten Kinder. Sie rannten am schwarzen Ufer entlang, das von Glasfasern und verkohlten Leiterplatten funkelte, sprangen über die glühende Asche der Plastikreste, die auf den Feldern schwelten, und schwammen und planschten in den dunkelgrünen Teichen, auf denen Polyesterfolien trieben. Anscheinend hatten sie an dieser Welt nicht das Geringste auszusetzen und ließen sich durch nichts die Laune verderben. Die Männer hatten ihre Oberkörper entblößt, um mit ihren minderwertigen künstlichen Körpermembranen zu protzen. Heiße, dreckige Luft wogte auf Scott ein, begleitet von einem beißenden Gestank. Seine Maske filterte den Staub und die Schmutzpartikel heraus. Doch gegen den Geruch war sie machtlos. Er versuchte, sich nicht mehr zu rühren, doch der Schweiß quoll ihm trotzdem aus allen Poren und vermischte sich mit den namenlosen chemischen Substanzen in der Luft, ehe er sich auf seiner Haut als zähflüssiger Film ablagerte, der mit seiner Kleidung verwuchs und jeden Schritt mühsam machte. Okay, that's enough.
Thank you.
Actually, I did enjoy translating your novel very much because I think it has several qualities. At first, it has a cinematic quality. It is for me like watching a movie. So I'm eagerly expecting to see it as a real movie. Second, I think it is very carefully constructed. Every episode. There are no redundancies. You know exactly what you want to write. And this is not, it sounds easy, but it is not easy at all. I ask you a simple question. Where did you get the inspiration for your book?
Actually, it's my debut novel. So it was actually written maybe 8 or 9 years ago in Chinese. So first time I have this idea of writing a novel about like electronic waste actually was back in 2011 when I traveling back to my hometown, Shantou. Actually, it's a small city in Guangdong province, the east south coast of China. So actually it's a very well-developed province, and I start to realize that from my childhood friend, there's a place, a real location named Guiyu. Actually, is like 60 kilometers away from my hometown. So it used to be the center of electronic waste recycling all over the world. So all this like developed country like US, UK, they dump all this equipment like retire mobile phone, laptops, and personal computers. All this waste was dumped in this place. And so I visit there and I'm kind of shocked because all this kind of workers who work there to doing this all kind of recycling job, actually there no protection at all. So there's serious damagement on the environment, the air, the soil, the water, as well as to the health of the worker themselves. So the scenes really make me think about like, it's so close to our daily life, but it's invisible to all of us because we all think that the waste should be taken care of by someone else. It just disappears when you dump this waste into the waste bin, to the tank. So it disappears because somebody take care of them. But actually not. There's some people has to pay the cost. No matter is the environment or these people, we all pay for this cost of like environmental issue. So that triggered me to put it into a science fiction novel. So people always ask me why not to write a nonfiction, because I think science fiction is a more universal genre as a literature. So people can get this kind of connection and resonate from the story, because I got a lot of feedback. Most of them are from developing country like Malaysia, like from India. So people there will feel like this is about their country, about their daily life. So it's happening not only for now, it's happening for a while. So actually when I finished the novel, I didn't really expect it. So after a couple of years later, so when it got the chance to be translated into other languages, actually the reality is also changed. Like the Chinese government, they released the policy that banned 24 types of foreign waste, actually including electronic waste. So those waste actually transfer from China to like Southeast Asia, to India, to like Africa, even like more developing areas. So actually it's still happening. So I think it's quite relevant to deliver the message that we need to start to think about our lifestyle. So I think that's what the essential idea of writing Waste Tide. And so happy have it to be translated into German, so by you. So it was my great honor. Yeah, great pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CHEN Qiufan and Marc Hermann, for this very interesting introduction to Chinese science fiction and to the novel Werks Die Siliziuminsel. As all of us have learned over the last years, science fiction in China is very popular, and Chinese science fiction has become popular in the West as well. We very much hope that through the mediation of translators like Marc Hermann, we will have more opportunity in the future to read more Chinese science fiction, which, as has been discussed today, deals as much with an anticipated future as it deals with our current world and society. And it might inspire us to find solutions for the challenges and problems we are facing today on a global level.